That's okay. Good. Saludos. Welcome to our information webinar for our Walk to Wall Street for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. My name is Cid Wilson, President and Chief Executive Officer of the Hispanic Association on Corporate Responsibility, also known as HACR. I'm coming to you live from our HACR headquarters in Washington, D.C., and looking forward to sharing with all of you about what we believe will be one of the most groundbreaking initiatives to elevate diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's our walk to Wall Street for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Let me first share a little bit about me and about HACR for those of you that may not be familiar with the organization. HACR has been around since 1986. We're a 38-year-old organization, and our nonprofit mission is to advance Hispanic inclusion in corporate America. We are powered by a board of directors of 14 of our major organizations and over 100 corporate partners who have joined us over these 38 years to advance Hispanic inclusion. I have been CEO for 10 years. This actually is my 10-year anniversary month, and so this is a very important initiative. Of course, prior to being at HACR, I've served on many boards that have been involved in many grassroots organizations, and so this is going to be a little bit about us and about HACR and me. But that's who we are. But I want to just go to the actual walk itself. So why are we walking? So to give you some context, about 2 years ago, the HACR team and I were together getting ready for a conference and really thinking about the the challenges that have been impacting diversity, equity, and inclusion, also known as DEI. And we thought that at some point we may need to do something that is a little bit more visible, but also something that is going to send a strong message about the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Then last year was the Supreme Court decision, and we knew that the Supreme Court decision gave energy to those elements within our country that do not support diversity, equity, and inclusion. And as all of you know, anyone that has been watching the news and watching what's been happening over the last 12 to 13 months, there has been a lot of questions about why is diversity, equity, and inclusion so important. And so we wanted to send a very clear message that diversity, equity, and inclusion matters. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is not only a strong business case, but it is the right thing. It's smart business. And given that our country is becoming increasingly multicultural, making sure that we are being truly inclusive to all of the communities that have been historically underrepresented in corporate America for as long as the United States has been a republic. And so that's when we decided that we were going to do something very different. And we decided that let's send a strong message by doing the walk. And so we're walking to Wall Street to elevate diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're walking to Wall Street because diversity, equity, and inclusion matters. We're walking to Wall Street to address the disparities that have impacted historically underrepresented communities. We're walking to Wall Street for you. not only those who have been directly impacted as a member of any one of the many historically underrepresented groups, but also for our allies and for those companies that have stood strongly in support of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so we've decided that this September will be our walk to Wall Street. We are going to start in Capitol Hill on Tuesday, September 17th. And from Washington, D.C., we're going to walk to Baltimore. We're going to walk to Wilmington. We're going to walk to Philadelphia. We're going to walk to Trenton, New Jersey, north up to Newark, New Jersey, over the George Washington Bridge into New York City, finishing in Manhattan. This is a 200-mile walk that will take us approximately 4 weeks to do the entire route. We will be in Lower Manhattan by October the 14th. And by that point, we will be, throughout that period, it'll be over a 200-mile stretch that we will be walking. We want to send a strong message that we want to not only walk our walk, but also talk the talk about the importance of walking to Wall Street. And so you can see that it's going to be quite an initiative. I want to emphasize that this walk is not just about any one group. This is about all who have been historically underrepresented in corporate America, but as well as, again, our allies and others who are stakeholders who believe in the importance that diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, is a positive. I would like to say DEI not only stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion, but DEI also stands for definitely earned it, because I want to make sure that everyone is crystal clear that DEI does not mean watering down standards. DEI means it's diversity, equity, and inclusion, and knowing the fact that many of us have gotten to our positions because we earned it. Just remember that DEI also means definitely earned it. So let's talk about ways to get involved. There are many ways to get involved. One is that because this walk is going to take approximately 4 weeks, we're going to be looking for volunteers, and you can volunteer by emailing us at volunteer@walktowallstreet.org. I also encourage you to visit the website that's been created solely for this walk, which is www.walktowallstreet, all one word, .org. And you can send an email to volunteer@walktowallstreet.org if you're interested in volunteering. We are building our growing list of nonprofit partners that will be working to support us and not only and partner with us on this overall mission for greater diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so if you're interested in being a partner, then you can email us at partner@walktowallstreet.org. We encourage you to walk with us, because one question is, can I walk with you? The answer is absolutely. You can walk with us at any point during the walk to Wall Street. There is not a limitation as to how many can walk or where you can walk. There are some that may choose to walk during portions in Washington, D.C., some that may support and walk with us when we're going through parts of Maryland, through Baltimore, some that may decide to wait till we get to Wilmington or Philadelphia or Trenton or or Princeton, New Brunswick, Newark, and certainly when we get into New York City, to walk with us there as well. So at any point you can support us. We encourage you to visit the website where it says walktowallstreet.org, where it says register. If you click register, you can put your name and contact, and then you can register to walk with us. And then the last part is to support. As one can imagine, this is quite a significant project that will require not only financial support, but also in-kind support. And so if you want to support our Walk to Wall Street, again, you can do it one of two ways. You on the walktowallstreet.org website, there is a donate button. We certainly encourage anyone to help to click the donate button. You can also email us at support@walktowallstreet.org. And recognizing that we are a 501c3 organization, so your support would be tax deductible to the extent of your availability for tax deductibility. But we are a nonprofit 501c3 organization, and so these are the many ways that you can support. And just know that which way you decide to support us, we appreciate that. And not just us. When I say us, I mean it's the collective, because this is going to be an initiative to elevate diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so, so those are the ways to get involved, and we encourage everyone to to join this. Um, and then yes, and then before I get to questions, I do want to share our Walk to Wall Street team, so that way you know who are the core team members. You, of course, have myself. You have Vanessa Bolingajavan, Dr. Lisette Garcia, and Andrea Orlando. And this, of course, team is also in formation as we start growing our list of partners. But but those are will be the core team. And you can, of course, reach all of us through the Walk to Wall Street website as well. So I wanted to kind of give everyone those details. So again, I want to just remind everyone that the Walk to Wall Street will begin on September 17th in Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. And then at that point, it'll go from Capitol Hill through Maryland, through Baltimore, up through Wilmington, Delaware, up through Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, over into Trenton, New Jersey, up through Princeton, New Brunswick, Newark, New Jersey, and then from there over into New York City by Monday, October the 14th. So that's going to be our route. Before I go to questions, let me just end by saying this. This is no question going to be a very physically exhausting commitment. But the reality is, we know through so many leaders who have come before us who recognize that when you have extraordinary situations, it requires an extraordinary response. And we need to stand strong, vehemently strong, in support of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so that has led us to make the physically exhausting but important decision that this is the time, this is the moment, this is the moment in this in the journey, in the history of the advancement of diversity, equity, and inclusion, that it is time to walk. So I encourage all of us, let's come together. Let's walk together. Caminamos juntos. Let's walk together to elevate diversity, equity, and inclusion. We are ready to go. HACR is ready to go. Our team is ready to go. Our allies and partners are ready to go. I hope you're ready to go to join us for this historic walk to Wall Street for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So with that, I'm going to begin to take some questions from you. And so I got one question is that I am not from corporate America. Can I still walk? The answer is yes. Anybody who believes in the cause can walk to Wall Street. There is no criteria. Uh, there is no minimum, um, you know, whether it's a background or age. So if you're under 18, just check, obviously, make sure you have to have someone, an adult that's walking with you. But anybody can walk with us. Um, Another question that I got is, can my employee resource group get involved? Absolutely. Any employee resource group, regardless of whether you're on or in proximity of the walking trail or not. If you're in the Southeast, you can support. If you're in the Midwest or the Pacific Northwest or in the Plain States or in California or the Southwest, anybody can join, even if you physically can't be here for the actual walk. While we would certainly encourage as many of you to physically join us for the walk, uh, we know that there are many ways you can support. You can donate. You can activate your ERG group in the public message in support of Walk to Wall Street. Your companies can make statements in support of our Walk to Wall Street for diversity, equity, inclusion. So there are many ways that companies and their ERG groups and other leaders at your companies can join us. And let me also say, it doesn't have to be your company. It might be your university. It might be your institution. It may be your nonprofit. It doesn't matter what you're representing. The key is that what you are representing is the support of Walk to Wall Street for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so, of course, another question is that can our organization partner with HACR? The answer is yes. And so, as I shared in one of the slides on the ways to support, one is you can go to the website at Walk to Wall Street, all one word, walktowallstreet.org, uh, or you can send an email to partner at walktowallstreet.org if your organization wishes to be an official partner, and then we will share with you those details. Um, Another question is that can you provide in-kind support? The answer is absolutely. We will need a various amounts of in-kind support, whether it's in-kind support during the walk, in-kind support in other ways that can be helpful to the support of our Walk to Wall Street for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so the answer is yes to that. Again, if you send an email to support at walktowallstreet.org and mention that you or your organization or your company wish to provide in-kind support, then please email us, and we will be more than happy to work with you as to the acceptance of in-kind support. But the answer is yes, you can provide in-kind support. Um, and the other question is, how do I know if the walk will be going through your area? Well, here's what we can share with you now. Even though we already have a trail all finalized, here are the key things to know. The walk is going to go through central Baltimore. It's going to go through central Wilmington. It's going to go through central Philadelphia, through the middle of Trenton, through Princeton, New Brunswick, downtown Newark, New Jersey, and then over into New York City, starting in Washington Heights and going through Harlem before you get to Midtown and then downtown. So, as to the actual streets, we will have that soon. But I want to give you an idea that if you are in those areas, then you'll know that the Walk to Wall Street will go through your town. And we will have more details as to the dates when we anticipate being in Baltimore, in Wilmington, in Philadelphia, in Trenton, in Newark, and into New York City. So that is where we'll know that. Another question that I see from the group is, what impact do you hope the Walk to Wall Street will have in corporate policies and practices regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion? And I love this question because this goes to the core as to why we have decided to walk from Capitol Hill to Wall Street for diversity, equity, and inclusion. The reality is that today's current environment is that we know that there are elements within our society that want to take us backwards when there wasn't diversity, there was homogeneity, there wasn't equity, there was inequality, and there wasn't inclusion, there was exclusion. Because those are the opposites of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so we are deeply appreciative of the many companies and many institutions that have stood strong in support of diversity, equity, and inclusion. But this walk is important because this sends a message to all of America that diversity, equity, and inclusion matters. It matters to us, it matters to the people, and it matters to the many companies that have stood strong in support of Walk to Wall Street. And so we believe in the importance of leading by example, and that will help reinforce the messages of those companies. And then for those who are still in their early diversity, equity, and inclusion journey, that they can continue moving forward on that journey towards those goals of truly creating and acculturating corporate environment that is welcoming, that is inclusive, that is belonging, again, that is diverse, that is inclusive, and that gives everyone that true opportunity to succeed and to advance and to compete. And so those are things that we will be doing. You know, HACR has been at this now for 38 years. And again, there are many organizations that have been at this for decades, and we're going to work together. We're going to come together to help elevate this call for greater diversity, equity, and inclusion. So another question is that what inspired us to undertake this 200-mile journey? You know, I love that question too, because I'm a student of history. And about 12 years ago, I joined a coalition of organizations when we did a reenactment march from Selma to Montgomery, which was to commemorate the original walk from Selma to Montgomery that took place in March of 1965, led by Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and John Lewis and so many leaders and allies that participated in that 55-mile walk from Selma to Montgomery. But then I also studied the walk from that Cesar Chavez did. You know, that was about a 300-mile walk from Delano to Sacramento to really advocate for migrant farm workers, and so many that have done very similar walks. This sends a message that this is just not talk, that this is just not conversation. We want action. We want a truly diverse, equitable, and inclusive corporate America. And we know that as diversity, equity, and inclusion advances within corporate, it will also advance within our societies. And so we know that the time is now. This is not something that we want to do for years later. Um, we can talk about things that we would like to do, but I'm always a strong believer that you don't wait for tomorrow what you can do today. And that is what inspired our team and I to decide that we're going to lead this walk to Wall Street for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so that's what inspired us. And so that's so thanks for that question. Another question is that if you can't make it to the East Coast, how can you participate in your home city? I love that question too, because we have when we announced our walk to Wall Street last June during our HACR executive programs in Atlanta, we got a lot of questions as to, can we organize like a virtual walk from where you are in your companies or in your areas? Absolutely, you can. And so there may be activations that you can do from your own cities, from your own corporate headquarters. If you're a large institution in those cities, you can participate in many ways, even if you cannot physically be here for the actual walk. So and for that, we encourage you to think about your creativity, but also think about it from a purpose-driven reason, because we know that together, as we activate Walk to Wall Street around the country, it's going to gain momentum. So what you do in your city may wind up helping to lead an initiative in your city to do something in parallel to what we're doing in support of Walk to Wall Street. So absolutely. So even if you cannot make it, you can certainly support us in many ways. But if you decide to do an activation from your cities in that period between September 17th through October 14th, then yes, we encourage you to do that. Another question is that how can you receive updates? So let's start with if we encourage you to register. And if you go to the website walktowallstreet.org, there is a button where you can click register, fill out your name, and that will make sure that you are receiving updates for Walk to Wall Street. We're approximately 6-7 weeks away from the start of the walk, so so we certainly encourage you to do that, and there'll be more updates to come. This next question I love. Will we be walking rain or shine? The answer is absolutely. Rain or shine, we are walking. The only exceptions is if there is a public weather emergency that may force us to suspend the walk, a severe thunderstorm warning, anything like that. But if it's just rain, you should be prepared that we will walk rain or shine. And of course, we're very thankful for those individuals who have already volunteered to to provide other means of support when we do have to walk, either during inclement weather or just the the regular weather that mid-September could still be very hot. It can be very humid, and that means we certainly will be looking for in-kind support, even as simple as providing water to help us when it might get very hot. But the answer is that rain or shine, we are walking. And another question is that, can you follow us virtually? The answer is yes. I'm happy to say that we will have a system in place for those that just want to just follow us. Certainly, we'll be sharing on social media how the walk is going. There'll be email updates as well as to where we are walking. Let me also just add the one question that may not have been asked yet, and that is that we're only going to be walking during the daytime. This walk will not be happening during the evenings. And we do that mostly for safety reasons, but also recognizing that we want to pace ourselves in terms of the number of miles that we're walking each day from Capitol Hill to New York City. So we will be doing that during the daytime. But yes, rain or shine, we will be walking unless there's a National Weather Service bulletin or indicating that we may need to temporarily suspend it for weather reasons. But that's the answer. And so those are the key areas. Let me see. Are there any other questions that I see here? I do see more questions. Let's see. One question is: are you concerned about the anti-DEI rhetoric during the walk? Well, here's my answer: is that there's DEI rhetoric right now, much less during the walk. But here's the answer: we can decide to accept the default, or we can disrupt the default. And the reality is that when you're on the right side of an initiative, on the right side of history, you don't let those who are opposed to a rightful and positive and inspiring and inclusive initiative, that we don't halt ourselves from doing that just because you get a few counter currents that are trying to go against you. The truth of the matter is that just because you've got headwinds that you're walking through doesn't mean that you turn around and you walk with the wind. If there are anti-DEI headwinds, we're going to keep walking through those headwinds. Make no mistake, we are not going to slow down. We are not going to turn around, and we're certainly not going to back down when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is a year where we will double down on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that's because we definitely earned it. And so don't let any headwinds keep us or turn us around. And we are going to keep walking through. And in the spirit of Dr. Martin Luther King and John Lewis and so many civil rights leaders, we shall overcome. And in the words of Dolores Huerta, si se puede. And so we will walk. We're going to walk all 200 plus miles, headwinds or backwinds, regardless of what of what we will encounter as we walk, because this is required. We need this. Our community needs this, and that's why we need you to join us for this historic walk to Wall Street for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Another question is that is this only for the Hispanic community? The answer is no. This is a walk to Wall Street for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And while, yes, it is happening during Hispanic Heritage Month, we are looking forward to walking to Wall Street to not only support Hispanic inclusion, but African American inclusion, women, LGBTQ plus IA, Asian Americans, people with disabilities, and any other groups that have been historically underrepresented that can walk with us. So the answer is that all of us. But there's one group that I also want to make sure that I emphasize, and that is our allies. Our walk to Wall Street, just like so many movements in the past, have been driven by our allies. and have been supported also by our allies. And so, regardless of whether you represent a group that has been historically underrepresented, or you just believe in the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We encourage everyone to be able to walk with us. So, this is a walk for overall diversity, equity, and inclusion in corporate America. But we know that societal diversity, equity, and inclusion also matters. And so we welcome all of you to join us. Um, this is a nonpartisan walk. This is a movement walk. This is a walk for an important cause to support diversity, equity, and inclusion. So the answer is anyone, regardless of your background or gender or race or religion or again if you also people with disabilities, the answer is absolutely you can join us on this walk to Wall Street. Let me see if there's any other questions that I see here. Um, just check really quickly to see if there's any other questions that you um, may have on this walk to Wall Street. Um, if there are no more questions, um, let me just conclude with this. 10 years ago, the HACR board of directors hired me as their president and chief executive officer. That may be the nation's first ever Afro Latino CEO in US history. Um, so, diversity, equity, and inclusion isn't just a saying, it's not a slogan. For many of us, including me, it's who I am. Because all of us have had experiences where we have felt left out, excluded, and yes, discriminated against. And so those elements that we know have negatively impacted historically underrepresented communities have not gone away. And so, contrary to what we may hear from what I call the anti DEI headwinds, those issues have not gone away. Racism still exists. Um, Gender discrimination still exists. Uh, Discrimination and bias against people based on whether your accent or how you speak or where you're from or who you love. Um, all of these issues still exist today, have not gone away, and so that's why, as those headwinds have gotten louder, this is now our time to speak with a very loud, very unified, very inclusive, very American voice. That diversity, equity, and inclusion matters. That diversity, equity, and inclusion is important. That diversity, equity, and inclusion represents the best of America, the best of corporate America. That diversity, equity, and inclusion is all of us because we are here because we definitely earned it. And this is why Walk to Wall Street from Capitol Hill to New York City is going to be such an important initiative. So we encourage you that if there was ever a time to join us for what should be a very historic initiative, this is the time for you to join us. Will you join us? Join us for our Walk to Wall Street from Capitol Hill to New York City for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Again, that's our website, www.walktowallstreet.org. And this is also our contact info, including our email address, and even a phone number. So that way, if you have any questions, you can feel free to contact with us. So with that, I want to say thank you for joining us for this information webinar. We expect to have another information webinar probably near the end of August, and then probably even one more once we get closer to the launch and start of Walk to Wall Street. So again, thank you all so much. God bless you. Que Dios le bendiga. Y pa'lante con our walk to Wall Street for diversity, equity, inclusion. My name is Cid Wilson, President and CEO of HACR. And on behalf of so many of us, including our team and our board and so many stakeholders that are joining us, thank you for your inclusive leadership, for your inclusive energies, and for your commitment to join us for our walk to Wall Street. Thank you very much, and more to come.